Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I'm wanting to go and review a little bit about my track plan. I've been thinking about the track plan that I had created over the past few weeks. There were some things that I really liked about it, and then there were some things that I didn't like about it. One of the things that I did like about it was, in one sense, it was going to have a two track operation, which is something that I had wanted. At the same time, I really do kind of like trying to make the train layout as, in one sense, as prototypical as possible. I make a lot of compromises, compression. I'm not great when it comes to building scratch building, those sorts of things. And so I stick primarily with building kits that Leslie and I work together. So I make a lot of compromises. But I do like looking at track plans, looking at how trains operated historically, and wanting to try and capture that on the layout. So I did like the idea of having a dual main from Granite City to Bloomington, Illinois. However, historically, that wasn't the case. There was a dual main that the Illinois Central Gulf shared with the Penn Central Conrail, but that only went from, in one sense, the outskirts of East St. Louis all the way to Juan. The more I thought about the train layout itself, as I'm building this expansion, I was thinking about on how I want to be a little bit more faithful to that dual main, but only for part of the layout, and thinking about how I could actually do that as part of the track plan. So I've recreated the track plan. Of course, this is not pretty by any means. This is just hand drawn, but this kind of gives you an idea of what I'm thinking at this time. I'm sure there's going to be numerous revisions as I'm getting ready to continue constructing buildings and so forth. But this provides me with a basic framework of what I think I want to do. So, starting over here at Granite City, we're going to have two mains. This inside main here is the Penn Central Conrail. The outside is the Illinois Central Gulf. So we're going to be coming in here to Granite City. We're going to have our steel operation. One of the things I kept thinking about was trying to, how I wanted to do the track plan going into the steel mill complex. The more I thought about it and the limitations with space, the more I thought about actually putting the steel buildings heading towards more of the backdrop, so that they're actually not served by these tracks. Instead, there's going to be basically a couple tracks here, which are going to be receiving some cars, but the majority of the tracks will actually be just facing the backdrop and will not be actually being switched out on this layout. So that saves me a lot of space. Also, as I've explained in the past, I know a lot of people like operations on their layout. I prefer to just simply run my trains. I typically will switch out industries every once in a while, but for me, that's not what I really enjoy. I love rail fanning the railroad that I build. So I'm not so concerned about that. Of course, this may change, but this is just kind of my idea at the time. Then we're going to be having a dual crossing here, and then we're going to be going into Wood River. Here at Wood River, we're going to be having a refinery, and that's going to be served off the main of the Illinois Central Gulf. Then over here, we're going to be coming into Juan. At Juan, that's where the Conrail Penn Central ended up veering off, and so the dual main ended there, and there was a yard. So of course, keep in mind there will be a backdrop halfway down this, and there'll be a backdrop halfway here. So what I'm actually going to be doing is having the Penn Central Conrail track head off on the other side behind a backdrop. And so I'm going to have basically a big circle, a big loop that Penn Central Conrail trains can be constantly running. So I can have, in one sense, two trains operating at a time, which is kind of what I wanted to be doing. But at the same time, it's only going to be for part of the layout rather than all of the layout. Now after one, as we're on this side up here on the top, over here is going to be Alton. Up here, I want to be having a couple industries. For instance, there was a cardboard manufacturing plant there. There's Winchester Manufacturing, where they manufactured ammunition. And I believe there were a couple grain loading facilities there. So I'm going to be kind of picking a couple industries to represent Alton. Then as we continue over here, we're going to be going over into what is called Carlinville. Carlinville, there are actually coal mines there in Carlinville, and I'm going to have a modern coal loading facility there in Carlinville. Then coming up here, we're going to be going into the outskirts of Springfield, Illinois. There's going to be a small yard and probably a couple little industries there in Springfield. From Springfield, we're going to be coming over, as I was looking at track charts to try and find something between Springfield and Bloomington. I saw McLean, and I'm not really sure. I'm going to do a little bit of research what's actually there at McLean. I'm sure there were a couple little industries. There were a couple little turnouts and siding there. So I'm kind of curious what was actually there. Finally, we come back into Bloomington. And like I said, now we're going to be back and having dual mains. The Conrail Penn Central will be coming through the backdrop and coming over here. Bloomington will have a very nice large yard, which it did, as well as the Penn Central Conrail, from my understanding, was also there at Bloomington. So there'll be a track coming through there, which then will be coming around to Granite City, and we'll have those dual mains. So I do like this track plan in one sense a little bit more, because I think it's a little more faithful to the actual route itself, that there was only the dual main over in the Granite City Wood River area. And I'm still getting a 2-train operation on part of the layout, which I think would be really cool as well. Also, as I'm looking at buying Kato Unitrack, that will be a huge cost savings as well, since I would not have to be having Kato Unitrack on the vast majority of the layout, as having a single main rather than the dual main. So this is what I'm currently thinking about as far as the track plan. I'm curious about your feedback. If you have any other suggestions or comments, I would greatly appreciate it. Like I said, this is a work in progress, and this is just what I'm currently thinking right now. So thank you very much. I hope you have a great day.